Yeah, what'd y'all think? And for me, there's 100 different things we could all say, and we will, about the game. But I think the most comforting thing, even if it wasn't the first thing that came to your mind as a fan base, the comforting thing is you looked at that was everything you could have possibly hoped from the quarterback position, especially knowing what they've been through, what he's been through this offseason. And it is one hell of a feeling for any fan base when you can comfortably feel like you've got your guy at quarterback. And I think the 49ers clearly do.
They've got him. And they want to make the most of him while he's on that rookie deal. But when his rookie deal's up, if he continues on this trajectory or if he even flatlines where he is now, he's going to be the guy. He's that guy. He gets it. And the only thing you have to do, and this is something that I've learned from you in terms of like how we can cut through the noise, because there's Twitter and there's what we see and there's all of the outside noise, but just look at what the people inside the organization do. Not what they say, but how do they act? And when you look at a guy who was gone for 6 months, rehabbing from an elbow injury, who is 23 years old, he looks like he's 15, and he basically has done nothing in this league relative to Trent, George, Kyle, John, the rest of them, and yet he's got the C on his jersey. Yep. He's a captain. And being a quarterback does not automatically mean you're a captain. You become a captain of a veteran-laden team because they believe in you and they believe in your leadership. And so a lot of times we get caught up in, projection and small sample and QB rating and he can't make all the throws and all the rest of it. And, some of that I do believe in, but at the very end of it, just look at what the team is telling you. They're a winning team that is telling you, this is our guy. He's our captain. We believe in him. So that should be enough for all of us.
Some of the excitement from Brandon Ayuk yesterday, and if you didn't see his social media IG story, he put up a picture of Brock Purdy, but it's of the back of his jersey. And instead of saying Purdy, it just says him. And, maybe that's getting a little played out. But by the same time, I get it. Like, not only did Ayuk have a huge day and 2 touchdowns, and he was the owner of putting egg all over Patrick Peterson's face and all that good stuff. But Brock Purdy's presence, his play, his execution, all of that equals what for Brandon Ayuk? Ooh, money.
Cha-ching!
Money.
Cash me out one time.
Brandon is going into that extension off season next year, and if he builds on what he did yesterday, my goodness, he's going to be a 1,500-yard receiver, and every week that dollar sign goes up, up, up. I hope not so much that the 49ers somehow are challenged to keep him. I don't think they will be.
Cap schmap.
Cap schmap.
You sent that over the weekend.
Well, I mean,
and you're not wrong.
Here are the Niners with apparently every good player at every position, and also somehow walked out of the year with the most cap space in football.
Explain
it to me. If it's not cap schmap, explain it to me.
I would explain it to you, but I'm not David Lombardi, and I didn't go to Stanford. Yeah. But I know that he put a piece out on The Athletic today explaining some of it. And just in layman's terms, when you convert salary to bonus, that bonus gets chopped up into pieces, and the cap hit gets chopped up into pieces as well. I do know that next year, and we talked about this before, they were facing a major cap situation. And as long as the players that you reconfigure, as long as you keep them, you're going to be okay. The problem the Rams had is they reconfigured all these contracts, and then they didn't want to keep these players because these players stunk. And when you get rid of a player, all of that accelerates. It's an acceleration sensation,
Good
Mark,
for you.
Is what it is. Thank you. And I'll pay the buck, but I'm going to pay it 20 cents a year over the next 5 years.
That's well played.
I'm going to go ahead.
Parag Dibley.
I'm going to parag that dollar.
Is unloading on this piece today.
That's basically what it comes down to.
It also comes down to this, though, and I mentioned this over the weekend. I think important for you fans to know. Every time one of these players restructures, yes, they're not losing money, but they're doing the organization a solid. And I'd like for everybody to ask, why is the team doing that? Especially if you've been questioning this regime. Why is the team doing that? This regime has fostered an environment where these players want to give up their own for the greater good, and the regime deserves a big old bucket of credit for it.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff we don't think about. We just think, well, I didn't like the play call on 3rd and 4, and you had a lead in the 4th and you lost it. This regime has fostered an environment that is building on itself because the players want to give to the collective rather than themselves. That is not a given in pro sports at all. And they deserve a lot of credit for that because it just keeps happening over and over.
Right.
And to look at this roster and think they've got more cap space than anyone in the league is ludicrous. It is ludicrous.
Totally.
But true.
It is. And then you have to think back to the New England Patriots when Tom Brady was there, when he would just take, whatever, just pay me $11 million or $12 million or whatever, because he wanted to be a part of a team where they could afford to have good people around him, and he wanted to win. And I know it's a little bit different because Steph Curry was coming off an injury, but he could have gotten more than 4 years and $44 million at that time. But Steph Curry himself wanted to have a team where they had flexibility. Yep. So sometimes it takes a unique athlete, or in this case, a group of athletes, to say, look, we understand the deal. If I take, you're not taking less, but if I can take it and break it apart,
move it around a little bit,
move it down the line. That way, maybe we can keep Brandon and Christian, and we know that Nick just signed and all the rest of it. It does speak to an organization where everyone seems to be on the same page.
888-957-9570, Willard and Dibs. It's a victory Monday. The 49ers clean as a damn whistle, 30-7 over the Steelers. And we're asking simply, what'd you think? So you can take it wherever you want to go with this team right now. Brendan in Newark leading us off today here on Willard and Dibs. Hi, Brendan. What are you doing?
I just got off work. I'm actually playing Madden with the Niners while I was waiting for you guys to pick up, so it's working out.
How you doing, Brendan? Are you winning?
I'm down 20-14, but I got the ball and drive it.
Okay. If you lose, we're going to make you change your team. But anyway, go ahead.
But never going to happen.
All right.
So I do love the offense. I can't talk about them enough with how well they did yesterday with Ayuk. He's going to make Kittle's year and Debo's year so much easier because now they're going to start shifting that double team up over to BA after the game that he put up yesterday. But my star of the day yesterday was the defense. Having Charvarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, both of them getting picked. I think it was Drake Jackson, Javon, and Kerry Hyder all got sacks. And people were talking about how, Bosa didn't do very well. That's because he was double and triple teamed all day because people knew he was going to come out there and put a clinic on. It's the same thing with the offense. You have that star player who puts up those gaudy numbers. You're going to give the other members of your team the opportunity to go out and show what they can do. And I could not be happier with how yesterday went.
Yeah, Brendan, great stuff. Thanks for the call so much. You want to know, and again, you get all the credit for this stuff, but you want to know who Drake Jackson was yesterday? Just a one-game sample, but Drake Jackson yesterday was Jeff Kent in his MVP year with the San Francisco Giants.
Oh, wow.
Did he get a lot of hits? Does he deserve the credit for swinging that bat and hitting the ball over the fence and being the player he was? Sure he does. Why? Why did Jeff Kent suddenly become who he was in the San Francisco Giants lineup? You all know the answer. Because he's hitting behind Barry Bonds, and nobody wanted to pitch to Barry Bonds. So they went, okay, let's try Jeff. And Jeff crushed it because there were always people on base and because they had to come to him. Same thing here. Nick Bosa did not struggle yesterday. Nick was fantastic in moving things around the way that he had to, but he didn't get the stats because, Brendan, as you said, all the focus is on him. All the double teams are forced on him. It opens up the whole defense for everybody else. The Niners know it, and that's why they gave him $170 million to be there on Sunday.
Yeah, a little bit of an unfair comp because Jeff Kent still has to hit the pitch, and he can only
Drake still has to go get the quarterback,
right? But it's a little bit different in terms of the impact of Jeff Kent still having to actually deliver behind Barry Bonds. But yeah, Nick Bosa being on the line certainly is a big factor, but it's also Javon Hargrave, it's Eric Armstead, and it's the rest of a nasty defensive line, but Drake Jackson has to go out there and beat his man and still get in there and do what he did. But I wonder how much of this can carry over from week to week. And, Nick Bosa, I think he was fine yesterday. I don't think that he was great. He certainly was on the ground a lot more than I remember him being, but he didn't have to be any better than he was because their defense as a collective was so dominant. Pittsburgh had -1 yard after their fourth drive.
I know it.
-1 total yard, and you took it away twice from Kenny Pickett, and Fred Warner had an absolute gimme pick that he dropped.
Great game from him, though. Great
Amazing
game from Fred. Yeah. Yeah, that stat they put up, and it was a little bit later than what you're talking about. It almost looked faked. It was one
total
of those
yards.
Yeah, total yards is
196.
almost halftime. And they're like, the Niners have 199, and the Steelers have one.
Number
Like, wait,
one.
what?
1 yard.
I think 6 drives. You have
Number one.
You have a yard. How many yards? No, not plural. You have a yard.
Yard.
The longest yard.
And if you break it down by play, they were averaging about 2 inches per play at that point.
I mean,
it's just brutal.
this is one of my favorite moments of the game. Did y'all remember this? The TV's coming back from commercial and got there a little early. And so they just decided to bounce around to the facial expressions of the Steelers fans. And I've never seen so many arms folded and people were just staring off. They were already staring off into the horizon. The wild blue yonder, if you will, Dibs. I mean, them Steeler fans were questioning life.
Normally it's
late
the
in the second
1,000-yard
quarter.
stare, but in this case it was the 1 yard stare.
It's like, what on earth is this?
Yeah.
Because they were a buzz team. First of all, they're the Steelers. They're not used to that. Did I read that was the worst home loss in the history of Tomlin? I think it was. All right, so A, great franchise, not used to that. Great fan base.
Or the worst home opening loss. I'm
Just
not
home
sure.
opener? I thought it was worst home loss.
It could be, but I know it was the worst home opener loss.
I mean, usually in that division, nobody even scores 23, let alone losing by 23. I'll look it up, but I thought it was his worst home loss ever. Anyway, point is, great franchise. They're not used to this. Then add in preseason buzz, and they're like, you know what? We might actually be sneaky in this division. We might be a playoff team. To get it handed to them at that level, it was stunning. It was stunning even for those of us rooting for the Niners. Did you find it, Grandy?
Yeah, worst home loss under Mike Tomlin and the worst home loss by the Steelers, period, since Christmas Eve 2006.
Damn!
Man.
Which actually was right before Tomlin took over.
Correct.
Tomlin took over in 2007. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah, and all of this against a backdrop of Steelers favored by 2.5. This is a tough spot.
Not favored. Niners were favored by 2.5.
Yeah, it actually got down to 2.
Yeah.
But, still, the Niners favored by only 2 in a spot where, they're a Super Bowl contender in Pittsburgh and, like you said, everybody's boutique team.
Did you, did you look yet at the spread next week, Rams? Did you look?
No, I have not.
Want to take a guess?
Sure, it's at L.A.
At LA.
It's got to be 8.5. 8.5 would be my guess.
8.5.
Yeah.
8.5.
I mean, L.A., nice win over, sorry, it's something in my throat. Seattle.
Hey, look me in the eye. Look me right here in between the eyes.
I am. I see where an eyebrow should be, but you shave.
I do take care of the unibrow. I don't shave my eyebrows.
You're prone to grow hair. My son actually shaved his eyebrow. I saw him over the week, and I'm like,
clip them. He
he
maintain
gave
them.
himself a notch. He's like, I thought it looked cool, but boy, I went too deep.
Yes, you
nice,
did.
son.
In too deep.
Thank you.
You freaking nailed it.
It was 8.5.
Nailed it.
I honestly, I have not checked. Liquidate all assets comes back on Wednesday.
Good for you. You're in mid-season form already.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
Other than my USC Stanford over.
Well, I lost 2. I lost by a point. I had the Patriots plus the 4.
I don't even know what I lost
make
by.
the 2-point conversion next time, you loser, Mac Jones.
Was that over? Was it 69.5?
It was 69.5. Yeah.
56-10, dude.
Stanford only scored 10.
Hey, Stanford,
No,
score a point.
The whole thing was Stanford needs to get to 20.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on.
So we both took
that bit dies.
the L. No, it just goes to next week.
It's a good
Dale.
bit while it lasted.
Dale in Cupertino. Hi, Dale. What are you doing?
I'm just driving around. I take care of veterans for their appointments for medical. But
Oh,
I
good
have
for you,
to say,
man.
I was a Brock Purdy fan after 2 or 3 starts, and especially when McCaffrey came in, he commented after 2 or 3 starts, and nobody seems to remember this, but McCaffrey said he did so well in adapting to the team because Purdy put him through the playbook, right and left, this and everything. He really knew the playbook, and it reminds me that Garoppolo commented he was glad that Trae Young was there because they had to dumb down the playbook for both of them. So I think the intelligence is something that you have to look at for a quarterback, and I love the fact it's a team. It's a team effort now. It's not just one high-paid guy. But my one comment, and I don't know if you have a bubble popping sound, but I have to kind of burst your bubble. I didn't think Pittsburgh nor the Giants were even an NFL team on Sunday. Did you guys?
Well, but why did they look like that, Dale?
Yeah, Dale.
Do you know what I mean? Like this is always a chicken or the egg conversation. The Giants were in the playoffs last year. The Steelers were a 9-8 team last year. Do I think that the Cowboys and Niners just beat 2 elite teams? No, but I also think they looked like total junk because of who they were playing.
Right. And in both cases, the defenses won those games more than the offenses.
Well, I think that's more. Dale, thank you. We want to get to a lot of people. I think that's more true with Dallas than it was with the 49ers. I mean, I actually would respectfully have a little bit of a different opinion from what you said earlier that Dallas wins the award for cleanest game of the night. I mean, maybe you could fairly argue that Dallas didn't need their offense to be dynamic, and yes, it was raining. I mean, look, it's one game, so you can't make too many sweeping judgments. I thought the 49ers looked like the most balanced team in the NFL. I do think that.
Well, Dallas actually didn't ever send their offense on the field.
Right.
I don't know if you watched the game, but
I did watch the game.
Yeah, they actually sent their defense back out on offense and just allowed themselves to go 3 and out.
They outscored their offense.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure.
So they wanted their defense on the field at all times.
Yeah, Dak Prescott didn't need to do much. I get it, but he threw for 143 yards and no scores.
Sure.
13 of 24, buck 43.
What a bum.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No issues, but it was one of those games where they didn't have to show any of their book.
Right.
So they didn't.
Exactly.
So yeah, not a criticism by any stretch, but the Niners got to do some things that Dallas didn't have to do yet.
Right.
Therefore, we'll see when they do.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see these 2 teams and maybe Detroit in the playoffs and, Philadelphia with a little bit of a somnambulant, a little bit of a sleepy game, but they woke up in time to get that game done. That one was looking for a long time like, gee, Philly?
It was an interesting game. Like, I think New England's defense is good. I think it's a good defense. That's number one. Number two, Philly suffered some injuries on the defensive side, a couple of them in that game. And then number three, even though they win, I do think there's something to be said in a negative sense for Philly. When you're up 16-0, and then in a blink of an eye is 16-14.
Yep.
And they did not finish that half. And so they let him, they let him off the hook.
Totally.
They let him off the hook. But, look.
One more before
road win is a road win. But
one more before we step aside. A road win is a road win. Your guy, Mr. Gorgeous, smoky brown eyes. Hey. I mean, what a classic Jimmy G performance. Throws a pick inside the 2.
Red zone?
Deep red zone.
Oh,
Dark
gosh.
red. That was the magenta zone.
I want to suggest this for every 49er fan.
My God.
Whether you were a Jimmy fan or not.
You got to watch this guy.
You got to go watch him. Because watching him in a different uniform, it's a totally different experience.
But it's the same experience.
But it's different because you don't care anymore.
But it's the same because you're like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. Oh my God, this guy stinks. Oh my God, he won again.
Yeah, Jimmy can do some things. I'm like, he's going to get Devontae killed. He's going to throw a red zone pick. And somehow he's going to win the game. He's going to say, feels great, baby, and he's going to run off the field.
Jimmy G, man.
And everybody's girlfriends are going to be like, wow. It's the same damn experience.
He's amazing.
17-16. Unbelievable.